Hey everybody, this is Bo Sanders, and I wanted to throw out an idea to you today. We are coming up on Halloween, and Halloween is not my favorite holiday because it is a watered-down, diluted version that we have accepted of something we really need, which is Carnival, to turn upside down the power structures and to challenge the systems and institutions of authority that keep us confined. We don't go all the way for Carnival or revolt, and instead we settle for a little bit of candy and a little bit of slightly sexualized costumes. It's pathetic. Anyway, when I read postmodern sociology, as a pastor and a theologian, it makes me think about things that are going on in our culture. And Jean Baudrillard and Umberto Eco, they have a vicious critique, as do many other people, of Disneyland and how plastic and fake it is. And so if Disneyland, which is just down the road from me, claims to be the happiest place on earth, that's how it markets itself, but it is based on being plastic and fake and fabricated, what does that mean for us? Is happy plastic and fake? And how do we decide what's real and what's not real? I think this is the advantage of having a discernment in a faith tradition, and specifically inside community, so that we can compare notes and see how we want to proceed. Because we live in a culture that is increasingly digitized. It's a digital world. It is fluid, where culture is changing, and it is liquid. It is perpetual and non-stop change that doesn't come incrementally, but exponential in its rapid shifts. And so it's tough. You can get disoriented, and it's difficult to know how to make decisions, what to trust, what to distance yourself from. Baudrillard talks about it being hyper-real, that if everything is imitation, stimulation, simulation, and eventually what he calls simulacra, which is after you get reproduction after reproduction, you can't even tell the original anymore. But what if it crosses over into the point that you arrive at a place in culture where it's just imitation all the way down, stimulation and simulation, all the way down, and there is no original. And that's just a really sad place to be. So I came up with this little thing I want to run by you. I want to present this and see what you think. And I've based it off of Donald Rumsfeld, his defense of going into Iraq and when it wasn't going very well, and when he was before the committee, he said that there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, things we know we don't know, and there are unknown unknowns. Slavoj Žižek comes along and says he missed a category. There are also unknown knowns, things we don't know we know. And so I use that as kind of my framework, my inspiration for coming up with this, for how to proceed as a person of faith in trying to utilize discernment in a world that is hyper-real, liquid and fluid in perpetual change. And so one of the things I figured out, and this is where we're going to start, is that we often don't have trouble saying that something is real. That it's sincere, that's another word we can use for real in this conversation. That it's sincere, real. And so I'm going to use the example of medicine women or shamans or mystics from history. We often don't have trouble saying that these are archetypal figures that happen in multiple cultures throughout history. And so there's something real going on there. We may not have access to it or have all the answers, but we don't have a problem generally saying that there's a real. And then we also know that there can be fake fakes. And that's like when a comedian pretends to be a TV preacher. So if you're watching Saturday Night Live and they're doing a caricature of a TV preacher, a faith healer, that's a fake. It's openly acknowledged, a wink and a nudge, that a comedian is doing a caricature of a TV preacher or a faith healer. That's a fake. And those stand out, and we generally know what that is. We may get offended by that, but we generally aren't, we don't have trouble discerning what's going on there. So you have the real, and you have the fake. Where I think that we come into our problems is that we often have trouble figuring out if something is real fake or fake real. So if you change real to sincere, we come to people like snake oil salesmen. Well, we have no trouble saying that they're fake real, that that's a fake sincere. They know that they're bamboozling people. They know that they're taking people's money. And unless they've been duped into some multi-level marketing scheme or some cult, then that's a fake sincerity. That's fake real. Where we have problems is figuring out when it comes to the TV preacher or the evangelist or the faith healer. Is that fake real? Do they know that they're faking being sincere? Or are they sincere but just not real? Sincere, real fake. Because they either really believe what they're selling, but it doesn't mean that there's something behind it, or they're very cynical and it is fake real. We don't like saying something is real fake, that the person themselves is under the impression that and sincerely believes that this is what they're doing. It's just that they're not doing what they think they're doing. We don't like to put people in that category. It's difficult for us to be firm and to say, though this person is sincere, ultimately this isn't real. That we are always a little gun shy to do that. We don't want to be judgmental. We also don't want to be wrong. And so I'll give you another example in a cultural thing. Rachel Dolezal was this woman working for the NAACP up in Spokane, doing great work with her life. And then it turns out that she may not be black. In fact, her parents are German and have pictures of her as a blonde girl and pictures in college when the transition started. But when she was confronted by the media and by other folks, she insisted sincerely that she didn't understand the problem, she didn't understand the question, and that she really viewed herself this way. And so it took off in this dynamic, just almost angry conversation. It is a person who sincerely is working for the good and for the cause. Is she a real fake, or is she fake real? And people, some were too quick to put a stamp on that, others were quite hesitant, because it is hard to be confident when you live in this hyper-real world. We don't have problems with the real. We often don't have problems with a fake. But it's that combination thing that gets us. And so I think this is actually the appeal why people are fascinated with horror movies right now. That in the last 40 years, that scary movies have become just a huge sensation, a phenomenon in our culture. I think that one of the reasons that's true is because whether it's werewolves or vampires or zombies or the end of the world or whatever it is, that we like when we can see, let's take the demonic exorcism movies. We like when we see green vomit and hear a hoarse or a raspy voice that's one octave lower than it should be, that there's a manifestation. And it doesn't bother us that we know there's a sound effects team. We know there's a makeup team. We know there's a special effects team. We don't mind the fake. And one of the reasons that appeals to us is because we live in a world where it can be very difficult to point at what evil and the demonic looks like in everyday clothes, walking around the street, in the news, to say this is evil. This is evil at work. This is what the ancients called demonic. We'd rather go for the cartoony, the makeup, just with the full knowledge. We'd rather turn off our judgment and know that the green vomit and the raspy, hoarse voice that's an octave lower than it should be, we'd rather have that because it gives us some comfort, because we often don't know what evil looks like walking around in everyday clothes. And not having that confidence that if we are being bamboozled, if somebody's a snake oil salesman, if they're misleading other people in a cultish way, or if they're sincere but just wrong, it can be really difficult to know what to do with that. So I wanted to throw out this little picture and begin a conversation, and so we can continue talking about Disney and Halloween and horror movies and maybe even the Iraq War with Donald Rumsfeld. I would love to hear your feedback. Let me know what you think.